Ever heard someone call auditors just bean counters?
Yeah.
Or, that an audit's basically a rubber stamp. We often think they just check numbers.
Yeah.
But what if I told you there's this really human element underneath it all, a mindset that's absolutely vital for trust in our financial world, a way of thinking that's not just important, it's really foundational. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're peeling back the layers on something called professional skepticism. Sounds a bit academic, maybe, but it's really not. It's not about being cynical or, distrustful. It's about a very specific, disciplined way of thinking critically. And it's getting a lot more attention lately from global regulators, absolutely essential in financial audits.
Exactly. And our mission here today is really to get down to what that actually means. What does professional skepticism demand? How do auditors put it into practice, like day in, day out? And why is it suddenly such a hot topic? Or, well, not suddenly, but increasingly critical. We'll be looking at key documents, the actual standards from bodies like the IAASB, that's the International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board, and the UK's FRC.
And for you listening, maybe you're deep in finance, maybe you're just curious. Understanding this attitude, as they call it, can be surprisingly useful. It sheds light on how financial information gets checked, sure, but it might even, give you a new way to look at information in your own life. A bit more questioning, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Professional skepticism. It sounds like it could just be a personality thing. But what does it actually mean for an auditor? What's the official line?
Right. So the IAASB, the global standard setter, defines it pretty clearly. It's an attitude that includes a questioning mind, being alert to conditions which may indicate possible misstatement due to error or fraud, and a critical assessment of evidence. Think of it like 3 killers, maybe. You've got to ask questions constantly. You need to be alert for red flags, anything that makes you think, something's not quite right here. And then, crucially, you have to critically assess all the evidence you gather. Really challenge it.
So it's not just like, oh, that'd be nice if you did that. It's actually a requirement baked into the process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fundamental. It's right there in the core standards. ISA 200, that's International Standard on Auditing 200, is very direct. It says auditors shall plan and perform an audit with professional skepticism. You have to assume things could be materially misstated, whether it's an honest mistake or, fraud. It's not optional. It's just part of the job.
Okay, so that being alert part, what does that look like in reality? What kind of red flags are we talking about?
Good question. ISA 200 gives some examples. It means noticing when one piece of audit evidence contradicts another. Maybe something someone tells you doesn't match a document you're looking at. It's also about questioning things that make you doubt if documents or answers you're getting are reliable, spotting conditions that might indicate fraud, and recognizing when circumstances pop up that mean you need to do more digging, more audit procedures than you first planned.
Right, so all this alertness, this questioning, what's the ultimate point? What does it achieve for the audit overall?
The big payoff is massively enhancing the auditor's chance of catching material misstatements, errors, or fraud. Think about it. Without that skeptical mindset, an auditor might just, gloss over something unusual. They might accept management story too easily or use assumptions that aren't really solid. Skepticism drives a high-quality audit. It underpins objectivity, independence. It lets auditors make sound professional judgments. It prevents corner cutting, basically.
So it's definitely not a checkbox exercise you do once and forget about. It sounds like it has to run through the entire audit from start to finish.
Precisely. It starts right at the beginning, even before the audit proper kicks off, when they're deciding whether to even take on a client. They're looking at management's integrity. Are there any red flags about the people in charge that might make it hard to be skeptical later? Then, in risk assessment, that's the planning stage, say the numbers show a weird spike in sales. A skeptical auditor doesn't just take management's explanation like, oh, we had a great quarter. They ask, okay, show me. Show me the contracts, the shipping documents. Let's get some other evidence to back that up. Corroboration is key.
Okay. So it's less about blind trust and more about demanding proof. Does the story actually stack up when you test it?
Exactly that. And when auditors are gathering evidence, it's not just passive collection. They're actively challenging management, especially on complex stuff, subjective areas. They're constantly asking, is this evidence reliable? Is it enough? There's a really powerful line in ISA 200. It basically says, even if you believe management is honest, that doesn't mean you can relax your skepticism. You still need persuasive evidence. You can't just be satisfied with weak stuff. So if a company claims a big increase in some hard-to-value asset, the auditor needs independent proof, needs to scrutinize scrutinize the assumptions, look for conflicting info, and at the very end, when forming their opinion, they look back with that same skeptical eye. Have we gathered enough persuasive evidence? Do the financial statements truly reflect reality?
That sounds like a really robust process. It's not just about finding mistakes that are already obvious, but about lowering the risk, the detection risk, that something significant gets missed entirely. That's huge for confidence, isn't it? And that rigor. I imagine it's absolutely critical when you're dealing with something like fraud, which is designed to be hidden. Is that where skepticism really earns its keep?
Oh, absolutely. Fraud is a prime example. ISA 240, the standard specifically about fraud, really emphasizes skepticism throughout the audit. It points out that normal procedures good for catching errors might totally miss fraud. Why? Because, and this is crucial, management is often in the best position to perpetrate fraud. They know the systems, they can override controls. So a skeptical auditor hears about, say, a suspicious transaction. They don't just take management's word for it. They'll go check with third parties, look for independent confirmation, because management's explanation alone just isn't enough when fraud could be involved.
Okay, so fraud is a big one. Are there other areas in an audit that are particularly, let's say, tricky, where this skeptical mindset is extra important?
Yes, definitely. The IAASB points out several hot zones, you could call them, areas needing significant judgment. Accounting estimates are a major one. Things like fair value calculations for complex instruments or assets. Management has to make assumptions, right? And a skeptical auditor needs to probe those assumptions. Is there bias creeping in? Are they reasonable? Then there's going concern, basically. Can the company survive? If a company's struggling, auditors don't just accept management's turnaround plan at face value. They really dig into it. Is it feasible? Are the assumptions realistic? Related party transactions deals with people or companies closely linked to the entity are another tricky area. It's hard to even identify them all sometimes. Auditors need to be really skeptical about the business reason for these deals. Are they genuinely arm's length? And finally, just generally being alert for signs the company might not be following laws and regulations.
It really feels like, while skepticism must have always been there, the volume has been turned up recently. Regulators seem much more focused on it. Why now? What's behind this push?
Well, there are a few key things driving it. First, modern accounting standards, especially principle-based ones like IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards, they require companies to use a lot more judgment. How you value things, when you recognize revenue. It's less black and white. That flexibility is good in some ways, but it means auditors have to push back more, challenge those judgments to make sure they're fair.
And I suppose the big financial crisis back in 2008, 2009, that must have played a role too. There's a lot of talk about audit failures then.
Oh, a huge role. You're absolutely right. That crisis was a major wake-up call. Auditors got a lot of criticism for, well, arguably not being skeptical enough, especially around complex valuations, those related party deals you mentioned, and questioning if companies were really okay, the going concern thing. So regulators like the IAASB really doubled down. The UK's FRC, the Financial Reporting Council, calls professional skepticism the cornerstone of audit quality.
Right.
It's not just a technique. It requires deep business understanding and, frankly, sometimes a culture change within audit firms to really embed that questioning mind.
Right, so it's way beyond just a technical point. It's fundamental, almost philosophical for the profession.
Exactly. And it remains a high priority for regulators. It was all over the IAASB's work plan a few years back, and it's still central, because it connects directly to everything that matters: audit quality, ethics, independence, and ultimately whether the public can actually trust the audit profession.
We've definitely covered a lot of ground, from, nailing down the definition to seeing how it works in practice stage by stage and understanding why it's such a focus now. It really does challenge that old bean counter image, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It shows auditors as active, critical investigators, always probing, asking why, even when things look simple on the surface. For auditors listening, it's clear it's not just about ticking boxes, but really cultivating that deep curiosity.
Precisely. And the IASB says it perfectly. The need for professional skepticism cannot be overemphasized. Ultimately, adopting and applying that skeptical mindset, well, it's a personal and professional responsibility for every single auditor. It has to be embraced.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe mull over. If this kind of rigorous questioning approach is so vital for checking financial information, how could those same principles, the questioning mind, looking for contradictory evidence, that critical assessment applied to how you take in information every day? News headlines, research you read, even advice you get from friends. What stands out to you from our discussion today as key for verifying information in your own world?